Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're getting into what's arguably the biggest infrastructure puzzle of our time, really achieving genuine clean power independence. And it kind of starts with this idea, the Terawatt challenge.
Yeah, coined by Richard Smalley, right, back in 2003.
Exactly.
And it sounds huge because, well, it is. The whole idea is adapting our, global energy setup
Right.
to handle two giant things happening at once: dwindling oil
Yeah.
and the absolute need to tackle rising CO2 levels.
And adapting for him meant just massive amounts of solar PV, wind, terawatts of it.
Huge scale.
Yeah.
But you're right, you can't just build the power plants.
Yeah.
You need all the supporting stuff. Storage is a big one, obviously. But also better transmission, maybe power to gas, power to X, they call it, smarter ways to manage demand.
The whole system needs an upgrade.
Precisely. So to zoom in on one really critical piece of that puzzle, today we're focusing our deep dive on a specific perspective.
Okay.
It's called the role of batteries in meeting the PV Terawatt challenge. And our mission here is to really understand where stationary batteries fit best. Not just slapping them everywhere, but finding where they give the most technical bang for the buck while still making sense economically and ecologically.
Okay, let's unpack that because this study, it argues something interesting. It says the key isn't just endless storage.
No.
The optimal way forward is actually adding moderate battery capacities. They're hunting for that sweet spot.
Exactly. The sweet spot. It's about balancing flexibility, cost, and the environmental side of things.
Right.
So to find that balance, first you got to understand what batteries are actually doing for solar PV systems.
What's their job?
They bring flexibility. Think of them like a shock absorber for the grid.
Okay.
Solar power, it jumps around a lot, right? Clouds, time of day. Batteries smooth out those bumps, those oscillations. And crucially, they help match up when the sun's actually shining with when people are actually using the power. Better overlap.
Which you need if you want lots more solar.
That's the key.
Yeah.
It enables much higher levels of PV adoption. Makes the grid more stable with more renewables.
So how did this study figure out the moderate amount?
Well, they use a simplified model. It's important to understand this.
Okay.
Imagine a solar farm plus a battery trying to power a constant, really difficult load all by itself.
No help from the grid.
No help from transmission, no other power sources, just the PV, the battery. It's designed to push the system to its limit.
Right, a stress test.
Exactly. And because they simplify it like that, ignoring the grid support you'd actually have.
The numbers they get are probably on the high side.
Likely, yes. They're probably upper estimates for what you'd need in a real interconnected system.
Yeah.
But it helps isolate the battery's role.
Makes sense.
And this simplification lets them focus on one main metric, the uniformity factor, they call it U.
Uniformity factor, meaning?
Basically, how much the system's power output is smoothed out, how consistent it is. And they're looking for the reference capacity. There's the battery size that gives the biggest increase, the biggest boost in that uniformity.
Before adding more battery just doesn't help much anymore.
Precisely, the point of diminishing returns.
And this is where it got really interesting for me. That sweet spot, that technical window, it was surprisingly consistent across different places.
Yeah, it landed somewhere between 3 and 4 kilowatt hours of battery for every kilowatt peak of solar PV. So 3 to 4 kilowatt hours per kWp.
That specific range kept popping up.
It did. Now, it does shift a bit based on local climate.
Right.
Take Nuremberg in Germany. Lots of seasonal change there, big swings in solar. There, the optimal point was 3.0 kilowatt kWp. And that more than doubled the uniformity, a boost factor of 2.25. Pretty good.
Okay, then Denver. Better sun, maybe steadier.
A bit steadier, yeah. There, the optimal was slightly higher, 3.8 kilowatt kWp.
Boost.
Even bigger, a factor of 2.5. It pushed uniformity way up from like 23% to 57%.
Wow.
But the best case they modeled was Singapore. Tropical, less seasonal variation.
So more consistent sun year-round.
Right. And there, 3.4 kilowatt kWp gave the biggest boost factor of the lot, 3.2 times. Uniformity went from 21% way up to 66%.
So in those really favorable climates, a moderate battery makes a massive difference technically.
Huge returns, yeah. Exponential almost.
So, okay, the study points to this 3 to 4 kilowatt kWp range as like the technical maximum for a tough, isolated load.
Right, the ceiling in that specific scenario.
But what happens when you put it back into the real world with grids and demand response and everything else?
Then you have to contextualize those numbers. And the study is clear about this.
Good.
In real-world systems, with all those other flexibility options, smart grids, transmission, maybe linking power and heat systems.
You don't need quite as much battery.
Exactly. The required battery capacity drops. Other big studies they reference suggest numbers closer to 2.2 kWp globally,
Okay.
or even down to 1.2 kWp if you tightly integrate power and heating sectors.
So that 3 to 4 range isn't a hard rule we must hit everywhere.
Not at all. It's more like the upper boundary for what batteries could technically achieve in smoothing PV under very demanding conditions. It reinforces their main point. Moderate capacity is the target, not just building giant batteries everywhere.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense technically. But now, the elephant in the room, cost. That's always the big hurdle, isn't it?
Always. So we need to talk about the levelized cost of energy, the LCOE.
Right, the total cost over the system's lifetime per unit of energy.
Exactly. And the main worry is obviously the extra cost the battery adds. Now, this study stresses that the big driver isn't just the battery cells, the pack itself. It's the installed cost, meaning the battery pack plus what they call the balance of system, or BOS.
All the other stuff. Inverters, wiring, installation.
Installation labor, the concrete pad, the cooling, fire safety systems, software, all of that. That BOS part is a huge chunk of the cost.
Okay. Do we have a baseline? Like, what did big batteries cost recently?
Yeah, they mentioned the Hornsdale Power Reserve in Australia, kind of a famous early project.
Right, the Tesla big battery.
That one. Its initial installed cost was just over $500 per kilowatt hour.
Oof.
Costs are falling fast.
Yeah.
Projections for 2030 are looking more like $125 to $300 per kilowatt hour installed.
That's a big drop?
Huge. Though one analysis they cite warns the actual battery pack cost probably won't go below 124 US kilowatt or GWh. There are material limits.
Okay, so costs are coming down. How did this study factor that into the LCOE using those optimal 3 to 4 kWh battery sizes?
They modeled two scenarios, a kind of now versus then.
Right.
First, a state-of-the-art scenario. Think 2020 tech.
Okay.
They used 350 US Ternity US NEDWA installed cost.
Okay, so better than Hornsdale's start, but still high.
Right. And crucially, they assumed a 15-year battery lifetime.
And the result?
Adding the battery roughly doubled the LCOE compared to just having the solar panels alone.
Doubled. That's a tough sell.
A very tough sell. But then they modeled their future scenario.
Okay, what changes?
Lower installed cost,
Right.
200 US per kilowatt hour. So significant improvement.
Still within that projected 2030 range.
Exactly. But the really big change was assuming a 30-year battery lifetime. Double the previous scenario.
30 years. Okay, that's ambitious.
It is, but it's where the industry aims to get. And when you combine that longer life with expected lower PV panel costs too,
What happens to the LCOE increase?
it drops dramatically. Instead of doubling, the cost only went up by an average of 28% compared to PV only.
28%. That's way more manageable.
Totally different picture. Still an increase, but manageable.
And how does that future PV plus battery cost stack up against, say, fossil fuels?
That's the kicker.
Yeah.
Even with that 28% increase, the projected LCOE is looking really competitive.
Give me an example.
Okay, take their Denver future scenario. The PV battery system came out at 5.9 US cents per kilowatt hour.
5.9 cents and natural gas today.
Natural gas power plants currently run somewhere between 4.2 and 7.8 cents per kilowatt hour.
So right in the mix, maybe even cheaper than some.
Exactly. And coal, that's typically 6.0 to 14.3 cents per kilowatt hour.
So significantly cheaper than coal in many cases.
Definitely. The study's conclusion here is pretty clear. Adding moderate battery capacity to PV is already becoming economically feasible and looks very strong going forward. It's not just a green dream.
Okay, that's powerful. Technical case, moderate is good. Economic case, future looks competitive. Now the third leg, ecology.
Right, the environmental footprint.
Yes.
Because we are adding a big manufactured thing, the battery.
More stuff means more impact, usually. We need to look at, what, global warming potential? GWP?
Yep, GWP, basically the carbon footprint.
Yeah.
And also energy payback time, EP time.
Okay, GWP first. How much worse does the battery make it?
It does increase it.
Yeah.
Compared to a PV-only system, adding the battery makes the GWP maybe 2 to 3 times higher.
2 to 3 times. That sounds like a lot.
It is an increase, reflecting the energy and emissions from manufacturing the battery got up.
I should have bought it.
There's a big but. Even with the battery, the total PV battery system still has an emissions intensity grams of CO2 per kilowatt hour generated. That's 5 to 10 times lower than the current electricity mixes in places like Germany, Colorado, or Singapore.
Ah, so compared to the fossil fuels it's replacing.
It's still a massive improvement, way cleaner than the status quo grid average.
Okay, that context is crucial. What about energy payback time? How long to pay back the energy used to make the system?
Batteries add to that too. The EP time goes up by maybe 25% to 60% compared to PV alone.
Is that bad?
Well, consider that solar panels alone have a really fast energy payback already, often just half a year to maybe 2 years.
Right, they pay back their manufacturing energy very quickly.
Super quick. So even adding 25–60% onto that, the combined PV battery system still pays back its energy debt relatively fast.
Okay, so ecologically it's dirtier than PV only, but still vastly better than fossil fuels, and the energy payback is still decent.
That's the picture. But there's one factor that massively influences both the economics and the ecology here.
Which is?
Battery aging. How long the battery actually lasts and performs.
Ah, that 15-year versus 30-year lifetime difference we talked about with cost.
Exactly. Capacity degradation. The battery losing its ability to hold charge over time is the killer.
How bad does it have to get?
The study suggests that once your degradation rate gets worse than maybe 2% to 3% per year, it becomes impossible to compensate, and that crucial uniformity factor we discussed just tanks. The system stops doing its job effectively.
So getting that lifetime from 15 years towards 30 years isn't just a nice to have.
It's fundamental. It slashes the LCOE because you avoid replacing the battery. It slashes the GWP and EP time because you avoid the environmental cost of manufacturing a whole new battery. It's a huge lever.
Makes sense. Did they touch on the raw materials issue, lithium, cobalt?
They did, briefly, acknowledging the concerns, water use and lithium mining. The ethical issues sometimes linked to cobalt.
Yeah, those are serious concerns.
Very serious. The study suggests that for stationary storage, where energy density isn't quite as critical as in cars, we could lean more towards chemistries that don't use cobalt.
Like LFP, lithium iron phosphate.
Exactly. LFP or maybe LMO, lithium manganese oxide. These could be good alternatives for grid batteries, sidestepping some of the trickiest supply chain issues.
Okay, so let's pull this together. We've got a technical sweet spot. Moderate capacity, 3–4 kWp, maybe less in real grids.
Check.
We've got an economic path. Future costs look competitive with fossil fuels if lifetime's improved.
Check.
And ecologically, better than current grids, though lifetime is critical here too. So if the core idea seems sound, why aren't these moderately sized PV battery systems just everywhere already? What's holding things back?
Section 4 in the study. The barriers. And there are quite a few.
Let's break them down. Technology first.
Yeah, technological barriers.
Yeah.
Even though grid batteries work, like we saw with Hornsdale, providing grid stability, stationary storage is still kind of a niche market. Less than 10% of all batteries made go into stationary systems.
Thus go into EVs.
Overwhelmingly. And that's the problem. The entire battery industry, R&D, manufacturing scale, it's all driven by what electric cars need.
Which isn't necessarily what the grid needs.
Exactly. EVs prioritize high energy density, packing lots of energy into a small space, and super fast charging.
While the grid needs
Long life, reliability over decades, high round-trip efficiency, minimizing energy loss during charging and discharging, predictable aging. These are different optimization goals.
So grid batteries might be stuck using tech that's not perfectly suited for them.
That's the risk. The study argues we need more focus on tech specifically for stationary use. They mention flow batteries as one possibility.
Cloud batteries, they're different, right? Store energy in liquid electrolytes.
Right. They have potential advantages for long-duration storage and might handle some aging issues better, maybe even self-discharge. Needs more development, though.
Okay, so technological focus is one barrier. What about economic ones, beyond the LCOE we discussed?
Well, related to the EV dominance. While EV demand drives down the cost of the battery pack itself,
Which is good.
it is good, but it doesn't automatically drive down the costs of the balance of system, BOSBO.
Ah, the installation, the inverters, all that other stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There isn't the same massive industrial engine pushing those costs down. It needs specific programs and policies, kind of like how solar panel costs were driven down years ago.
Targeted effort on the non-battery parts.
Right. And then there's the resource cost issue again.
Lithium, cobalt, copper.
Yep. Even if there's enough in the ground geologically, the sheer demand growth is making prices volatile and high. That uncertainty is a real economic barrier for planning huge projects.
Okay, tech barriers, economic barriers. What's left?
The big one, according to this analysis, policy and regulations.
Really, the biggest barrier.
That's what they suggest. They cite a German survey where something like 86% of companies involved in storage said regulation was the largest barrier.
86%. Wow. Why? What's wrong with the regulations?
Often, they just haven't kept up with what the technology can do. They're too rigid.
How so?
Policy often restricts batteries from doing multiple jobs, what they call multi-use applications or value stacking.
Give me an example.
Okay, imagine you install a battery. You might want it to help lower your building's electricity bill by storing cheap solar.
Okay, self-consumption.
Right. But maybe you also want it to sell services back to the grid, like helping stabilize frequency.
Grid services.
And also provide backup power if the grid goes down.
Emergency power. Makes sense to use it for all three.
Totally. But current rules in many places make that difficult or impossible. You might be forced to choose just one function.
Which kills the business case.
Often, yes, because the economics rely on stacking up multiple value streams. These restrictions, plus just long, complicated approval processes, it creates huge uncertainty for anyone wanting to invest.
So the regulations are actively slowing things down rather than enabling.
That's the argument here. The policy and regulatory environment needs a serious overhaul to actually facilitate these flexible multi-use systems and connect different sectors, like power and transport or heat.
Okay, let's try to wrap this up. Final synthesis.
Well, the big picture is that shifting to renewables isn't just about inventing a magic bullet technology. It's fundamentally an infrastructure challenge.
Building a new system.
A whole new system. And within that, this study shows that batteries, specifically in those moderate capacities, maybe 3-4 kWh kWp as an upper guide, are a really potent tool.
How so?
They're modular, you can deploy them relatively quickly, they react fast, and they partner really well with solar PV. They offer a path forward that's looking cost competitive and offers huge environmental benefits compared to our current energy mix.
But to unlock that full potential,
we need that longer battery lifetime, pushing towards 30 years. We need to seriously tackle those balance of system costs. We need sustainable sourcing and recycling. And critically, we need that smarter, more flexible regulatory framework.
turn the biggest barrier into an enabler.
Exactly. Because look, batteries aren't the only solution for flexibility.
No, there's pumped hydro storage, maybe hydrogen or synthetic fuels down the line, building way more transmission lines.
Right. No single technology wins everywhere. The future grid will be a mix, a diverse portfolio depending on the region, the resources, the costs. Batteries will be a major part, but they'll work alongside other solutions.
Okay, that leads perfectly into our final thought for you, the listener. Given that the future is this mix of solutions and we need both technology progress and regulatory change, here's something to think about. In your specific region, what combination of these flexibility tools is it going to be driving down battery costs? Is it massive transmission upgrades? Is it breakthroughs in power-to-X fuels? What do you think will be the decisive factor, the thing that really unlocks rapid decarbonization where you live?
A complex question with probably local answers.
Definitely something to chew on. We've been diving deep into the findings of the role of batteries in meeting the PV Terawatt challenge. Thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive.